Child abuse or neglect.
What does it mean?
Is defined as the acts or omissions of any person or caregiver who is related to, living with, or otherwise responsible for a child who is under the age of 18,
which have physically or psychologically harmed the child.
What are some of the telling signs in a child?
Any injury to the skin,
Bruising,
Cuts,
burns,
Or any other internal bleeding?
broken bones,
extreme pain.
Malnutrition?
drug use,
failure to thrive.
When the child has been a victim of sexual contact or conduct,
Such as sexual assault,
molestation,
sexual fondling,
Incest,
prostitution,
obscene or pornographic photographing,
filming,
or depiction.
or other similar forms of sexual exploitation.
when there is injury to the child's
psychological capacity,
which tends to be evident by their lack of ability to function.
when the child is not provided with adequate food,
Clothing, shelter, supervision,
Psychological
physical,
or medical care.
When a child is provided with dangerous
or harmful drugs.
except when prescribed,
By an appropriate medical practitioner.
What is a mandated reporter's duty?
If you, in your professional or official capacity,
Have reason to believe that child abuse or neglect has occurred or may occur,
in the foreseeable future,
you personally,
are required by law
to immediately report the matter
to child welfare intake.
Or the police department?
who is mandated to report?
all employees or officers
Of any public or private school.
Any licensed or registered professional
Of the healing arts.
or any health-related occupation,
all employees or officers of any public or private institution,
Providing financial assistance,
social
medical,
hospital,
or mental health services
Employees or officers,
of any law enforcement agency,
including
but not limited to,
the courts,
police departments,
Department of Public Safety,
correctional institutions, parole,
or probation offices.
individual providers of childcare, employees or officers of any licensed or registered
child care facility,
foster home,
or similar institution,
all employees of any public or private agency,
providing recreational or sports activities.
All reports to child welfare intake
Concerning child abuse or neglect.
are confidential.
Anyone who makes a report
in accordance with the law,
is immune from any liability
civil or criminal,
that might be incurred.
as a result of him or her making such a report.
Let's say you are not listed as a mandated reporter.
If you have reason to believe that child abuse or neglect has occurred or may occur in the foreseeable future,
you can immediately report the matter to Child Welfare Intake or your local police department.
Any person can and should
Report child abuse or neglect.
does someone do if they don't know the name of the alleged abuser?
It is not necessary or required that that person know the actual name of the alleged abuser.
The important thing is that the report be made.
The police can conduct an investigation and hopefully identify the perpetrator.
Does a mandated reporter, including a DOE employee, have to get permission from their supervisor, administrator, or boss before making the report?
Absolutely not. I think it's important that anyone who encounters an abusive situation, the one thing you want to do is make sure that it's not impeded.
The mandated reporter does not have to receive permission from anyone to make a report.
If you're a teacher, you don't need permission from your vice principal or principal. As a teacher, you're mandated to report it. That's your job, that's your duty.
What does someone do if they're told about a possible abusive situation from another adult? Should they report it, or should the person who has the direct information report it?
The ultimate responsibility lies with the mandated reporter who receives the disclosure.
However, the one thing we want to make sure is that the report is actually done so that the safety of the child isn't compromised.
As a mandated reporter, what can happen if you think or know something happened and you don't report it?
The mandated reporter who fails to make the report may be held criminally liable.
But much more important than that, you need to stand up for the child.
If someone is not sure a child welfare intake or their agency will think it's abuse, who can they check with before they make the report?
They can always call the CWI hotline, and that number is 1-800-494-3991, and they can ask questions, they can get feedback.
I think it's important for people to understand that when it comes to assessing whether it's abuse or not, that's not our responsibility, it's not our kuleana. It's important that a report is made. Someone who's trained in assessing the situation will make that determination.
It's better to be mistaken than to not report it and something happens and it's going to be on your conscience and you're going to have to live with that for the rest of your life. But report it. If you're in doubt, report it.
What if someone suspects abuse but can't prove it?
They're not required to prove if something did or didn't occur. That's the job of the police department and the prosecutor's office.
What if someone's afraid of the abuser coming after them?
That is a valid concern. That person may call the local police department, the prosecutor's office, or child welfare services and express those concerns.
Well, they can file a police report if they're being threatened or harassed by the abuser, or they can also apply for a civil restraining order, otherwise known as an injunction against harassment.
That's a natural reaction. You might be afraid of some kind of retribution if you report this and someone finds out who reported it, but your report will be confidential.
If someone makes a report, will they have to testify in court?
They may be required to testify in court depending on the circumstances of the case.
It's very rare that a reporter would have to testify in court.
That hardly ever happens, but even if you have to come to court, you'll be protected.
What if someone witnesses something outside of their job? How does mandated reporting work then?
Although the mandated reporting laws do not require them to make a report, as a responsible adult, they should make a report for the safety of that child.
If you see something, even if you're not at work or anything, report it. Just as a human being, you should just do the right thing and report it.
Are they required to report a child's threats of self-harm or harm to others?
If there's a possibility that the self-harm stems from some sort of abuse, then it should be reported.
If you see a child that's perhaps cutting herself or himself, that is a form of abuse. That's abuse to oneself, so you should report that. If you see a child harming others, the others may be abused by that child, so you should report that and let the agencies decide where to go from there.
Someone is at risk, and so it's important that some care and some assistance be rendered. The greatest risk is that something may be happening, but somebody doesn't do anything about it.
Does a clinician have the duty to report abuse even if the child victim says no, it's okay?
Absolutely, yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, mandated reporting means you must report it, no matter what the child says. So you shouldn't promise a child, don't worry, this will always be a secret. You have to do your job, which is report any kind of abuse.
Would a language interpreter hired by an agency involved with the child's case be mandated to report child abuse?
Yes. All human service providers are mandated reporters, even contracted employees.
Are only ongoing or future situations reportable? If past events are reportable, is there a statute of limitations? Or does a level of severity have to be crossed?
The statute of limitations or the severity of the abuse have no bearing on the mandated reporting laws. If a mandated reporter feels that because of prior abuse, future abuse may occur, a report must be made.
What will they ask when someone calls in to make the report?
They will need to know the child's name and contact information,
And a brief description of the disclosure made by that child.
If they know who the abuser is,
In the Department of Education, and I'm sure other agencies have this as well, there's a form that needs to be completed so that when they do make the report, at least they have information that they can readily refer to, and then the form is faxed to the state office or to the appropriate agencies for the follow-up.
What happens after they make the report? Will the child be taken away? What if the reporter feels it's not the right thing to do and it could make things worse?
Well, it depends on the circumstances of the incident. If police or child welfare services determine that the child is not safe returning home, then the child may be removed.
the most important thing is the safety of the child.
You, the mandated reporter,
Play an essential role in the welfare of our children.
Mahalo.
mahalo.
Mahalo for putting our keiki first.